Deputy Alan Farrell. 5 minutes.
Thank you, Laska and Corla, and indeed thank you, Mr. Fitzgerald, for your presence, and obviously the opportunity to have such a lengthy and thorough debate on what is an extremely important issue. I know since last March 9th, since the appointment of a senior minister for children, a historic event in Irish political history, that we have spent a great deal of time, effort, and employed considerable resources into the issue of children's rights, adoption, child protection issues, and both across the Department of Children and indeed the Department of Health and Justice. We have spent a considerable amount of time debating such legislation. So I do want to echo the sentiments of a number of my colleagues on both sides of the House in complimenting the government on that issue. In relation to this referendum, of course, I'm very pleased that the Minister has managed quite a unique feat, I think, in recent history, where we have almost complete, I think, full support in this House for the children's referendum and what it is hoping to achieve. And I hope that that will be reflected in society when it is put to them in November. I think that the bill and the actions that this government have taken with regard to child protection and rights in Irish society are most likely inspiring confidence in the future of child protection laws in Ireland. But of course, also in the many interest groups, civil society organisations and individuals who have campaigned for greater children's rights and protections in Ireland over the past 20 or 30 years. And I think it's important that the support that this House has given at this this particular bill and the referendum that will follow is mirrored by the general public, who will, of course, ultimately sign off on this bill. In 1996, the Constitution Review Group called for constitutional protection of children after such instances as the Kilkenny incest case in 1993. Similar cases or similar calls were heard in 2006 by the All-Party Committee on the Constitution, and again 4 years later in 2010 by the Joint Committee on Constitutional Amendment. Indeed, our programme for government, written in 2011, specifically outlined the strengthening of children's rights through constitutional amendment as a priority. And as I mentioned, on our very first day, on the 9th of March 2011, Taoiseach appointed a senior minister to the Department of Children, which, as I've already said, was a very significant event. While there has been widespread support for the referendum, we should not be foolish and take its result for granted. For those reasons, I should say, I have 2 points to make in terms of ensuring that the maximum number of people engage in this debate, and secondly, that the public are clear about not only what this amendment will do, but unfortunately what it will not do.
Just 2 minutes remaining.
Thank you. My first point relates to the actual date for the referendum, which is the 10th of November, which is a Saturday. And may I comment, for my own reasons, that I think that's a very significant day to choose for the children's referendum, in that it is a Saturday, and 1,162 primary schools were closed in May of this year for the previous referendum. That will not occur on this occasion. It will happen on a Saturday. And I commend the Minister, and particularly the Cabinet, for accepting a bill that I published in the last term involving Saturday voting. And I would like to acknowledge that and hope that perhaps it may end up becoming a bill in the future, becoming an act, I should say, in the future. The Saturday voting allows for less disruption of our children's education, which of course is quite fitting in these circumstances, given it is about children's rights and protections within our Constitution. It also encourages more younger people to get involved in the debate and vote. College goers, etc., who have been calling for weekend and rest day voting for as long as I can remember. I recognise statistically that students don't tend to vote in high numbers. And I do think that this will be an opportunity for them to take ownership of this very important constitutional amendment, debate it, and use it as an opportunity to further the cause of children's rights in our Constitution, and ensure that they themselves become a force to be reckoned with politically. I see no reason, for instance, why they shouldn't be as significant in Irish politics as the grey vote, as it is called. And I think that's something that the students should recognise. The other point I'd like to reference, Lasca and Corla, is those who are challenging this amendment. We've heard one or two on the radio and perhaps in the newspapers in recent days. And of course this is a democracy and it's everybody's right to debate and challenge the decisions that we make in this chamber and in the Seanad. And indeed, when putting a referendum like this to the people, it shouldn't automatically be rubber stamped. It should be debated. We should go through it carefully, line by line, and ensure that it does what we want it to do and that it doesn't take away from anyone else. And of course, the opposition to this amendment should not be based on anti-government, anti-state or anti-judiciary agendas. It should not be based on fear. And I want to focus for a moment on what this amendment does.
I have to ask the Deputy to conclude his remarks.
I will indeed, thank you. There is no change to Article 41 of the Constitution, which recognises the family as the natural and fundamental unit of our society. It does not abolish rights belonging to any individual, regardless of their age, and it merely ensures that children are afforded equal rights under the Constitution, regardless of the marital status of their parents. I'll finish, Lasca and Corla, simply by repeating that the commendation to the Minister and her team for the extraordinary work that the Department has achieved over the past year. We have never as a state seen this level of commitment and work carried out on behalf of our children or indeed on behalf of families. This amendment, along with a suite of legislation that this department, along with Minister Shatter and Riley, has introduced to strengthen our child protection laws, brings with it a new responsibility. And I know a lot of work is being carried out with the department to match necessary services with the availability of very scarce resources.
Thank you,
I
Deputy.
again like to thank the Minister and the Cabinet for bringing forward this legislation.